Howard Storm's near-death experience is one of the most remarkable we've ever heard. He came out to meet us in California, but first he asked to see the Pacific Ocean, which we were happy to do. The hills are fun to drive, and the beaches in Malibu are known the world over for their incredible beauty.
One of the most remarkable examples of a frightening near-death experience is by Howard Storm. He truly has an excellent example of a frightening experience and how that experience can turn around a life and result in a much more positive, loving individual afterwards.
Tell us about what happened right before you were taken out of your body. In other words, give us an idea of the sickness, let's say, that triggered it.
I was 38 years old, college professor on an art tour. I was leading an art tour of students around Europe, and I had a perforation of the small stomach, taken to a hospital, but it was a Saturday. Socialized medicine in Paris. We were confident that I was going to get great medical care. Instead, after being taken to the emergency room and told that my situation was grave and that I had to have surgery immediately, I was taken to another hospital and parked there for 10 hours and never seen by a doctor, never given any medication, nothing whatsoever. Nobody took my blood pressure, temperature, anything, just nothing, just parked in a room and left. The doctors in the United States told me my situation was like having a burst appendix, not a appendicitis. It was like having a burst appendix, and that my life expectancy was about 5 hours. So in 10 hours, I was in very bad shape.
And this is because the acid in the stomach has leached into...
Yeah, and so, to put it crudely, I was not only infecting myself, I was dissolving myself.
Wow.
As I agitated my diaphragm, trying to inhale, exhale, it intensified the pain. So breathing was very, very painful. And so I was trying to breathe with as little movement as possible. And so to me, letting go was to stop trying to do that and just not breathe anymore. And I knew that it was going to be very easy for me to die because I had been trying not to die for hours. And if anyone's ever been there, you know when you're dying. I mean, it's not like a mystery. It's not like, oh, what a surprise. You know, this was been going on for a very long time. So I closed my eyes and went unconscious. And
what happened at the moment where you thought you were dead?
I just went out, just gone. And then I awoke from that, and I was completely, utterly surprised because I was sitting next to the bed, and not only was the pain gone, which had been my total reality, but I felt more alive than I've ever felt before. And what that means is my touch, my taste, my smell, most particularly in my instance, my sight. Instead of seeing a 160-degree field of vision, I was now seeing a 360-degree field of vision, which I thought was like, oh, this is pretty cool. Rather than having like a certain depth of field, I saw like total focused clarity, far and near simultaneously.
In my research, I've extensively reviewed all the skeptical arguments about the reality of near-death experience. In fact, there's over 20 skeptical explanations of near-death experience, and they cover the gamut of physiological, psychological, cultural-based explanations for that remarkable experience. And I will tell you the reason that there's so many skeptical explanations is that there's no one or several explanations that make sense even to the skeptics.
So I'm starting to yell at my wife, who's on the other side of the bed, still crying, and she has no reaction to me yelling at her. And I'm saying very crude things to get her attention, and very angry. So I decide that she is messing with me, because it was very typical of her that when she wanted to reject me, to just ignore me. So I turned to my roommate, who was a very kind 68-year-old Frenchman, who had been very nice to us the whole day. And I'm yelling and screaming at him. The same non-reaction from him. I'm screaming in his face, and his eyes are open, staring right through me as if I don't exist, which of course to him I didn't exist. So I'm getting very agitated, very upset. The room is bright and lit, and I hear people outside the room calling me by name, and they're saying in perfect English, this is a French hospital, and so I thought this was very weird. They're saying, "Howard, come on, hurry, let's go." So I go over to the doorway of the room, and there's people outside the room, out in the shadowy, darkened hallway. And I said, "I'm sick, I'm supposed to have surgery, we're waiting for a doctor." And they said, "We know all about you, we've been waiting for you for a long time, hurry up, it's time for you to go." And I said, "Are you from the surgeon? You know, I need surgery, you know." And they said, "Come on, let's go, no more time to talk about it, it's time to go." And so I'm like, I'm assuming, okay, we're off to surgery, they've come to take me.
So you're not, let me say something, let me interject something.
Yeah.
You're not sure, I mean, you're out of your body, but you haven't been able to really put that together yet. You still think for some reason you're stuck here.
Absolutely,
you're
at all.
Really not there.
Absolutely.
You're in another dimension.
My consciousness, my understanding, and I think that this is, we all take our understanding of who and what we are beyond this world. The people shepherd me down the hallway, and we're going along, and I'm becoming aware that there's something really wrong with all this. Is just not right. Well, first of all, there's no more architectural features. Now I'm aware that we're on the 4th floor of Cochin Hospital, but we never hit stairs. We never go up or down. We're just walking. No walls, no ceiling, just space and like.
What did it look like when you say space? Was it like light that slowly faded into darkness, or what did that look like? That transition, can you recall?
Shadowy, out of focus, very fuzzy, very indistinct, which was just the opposite of what I've been experiencing in the room, which was incredible detail and intensity of everything. And now everything is hazy and difficult to perceive. Very, very hard to even perceive the people who, as the atmosphere around us becomes darker and heavier, they become closer and closer and closer. So eventually we're bumping into each other, and they're moving me on, pushing me on. Eventually it's so dark.
When you say they, how many were they, and what did they look like? How were they?
Originally maybe 8 or 10, but in a while I'm aware that there's many, maybe dozens or hundreds. I mean, of course there's no way for me to count, there's a lot now. And I'm terrified, because I don't know where we're going. This has gone on for a long time, and they're starting to say ugly things, and I'm getting pretty sure that this is no longer the hospital. I mean, we've gone way too far to be. We've walked out of Paris by now. We're gone. I mean, we're far away. I'm sure that they don't mean me well, and I know that there's no doctor or operation in my future, you know. And I said, I'm not going any further, I'm done. I'm going back, which was a bluff, because I had no idea which way, back would be. I didn't know where I was. It's darkness. Right. Wow. And they said, you're almost there, and they started to push and pull at me. Well, I had played some football in high school, and I'd been a tough guy, and I'd been in some fights and stuff, and so I started to defend myself. They're pushing, so I'm like punching and, and trying to fend for myself, but there's a lot of them. Because of their own emptiness and their own torment, the only way that they could relate would be to want to bring someone else to their same place. Mm-hmm. Like if you're with a group of alcoholics or drug users, they want you to be high. I mean, nobody wants a sober person around, when everybody's getting drunk. Sure. If you're in a football crowd, you can't just sit there and not cheer. I mean, just looking at it like, what's the matter with you? Aren't you enjoying the game? And they wanted me to be one of them. And the horrible part of this is that I was one of them. I know that in many respects, they were my kindred brothers and sisters.
Wow.
And I was not a stranger to them or they to me. And all they were doing was initiating me into their world of loneliness, hopelessness, and despair, ultimately meaning